Hello, PBC family. I have a question for you. Have you ever made an assumption about someone and that assumption turned out to be wrong and that ended up causing some problems for you? We are living in a time in our world, in our nation, in our community where people are making a lot of assumptions. And these assumptions are often turning out to be wrong, to be false. And these may be assumptions about people, they may be assumptions about things that are happening, about decisions that are being made. But assumptions happen when we don't have firsthand information. We don't have hard data and hard facts. And what happens then is we see something, we hear something, and we just kind of go from there and we piece together and we develop what we think is happening, what we think someone's motives are, or what someone is doing to explain that to ourselves. There's a tragic story in the book of Judges about a man named Jephthah. And in Judges 11, we see that God has empowered Jephthah to become one of the judges for Israel to lead his people. And Jephthah is a mighty warrior, and he leads the Israelites out against their enemies. And on the eve of battle against the Ammonites, in Judges 11, verses 30 and 31, it says this: "And Jephthah made a vow to the Lord, 'If you give the Ammonites into my hands, whatever comes out of the door of my house to meet me when I return in triumph from the Ammonites will be the Lord's, and I will sacrifice it as a burnt offering.'" Here's the thing about Jephthah's vow. God never asked him to make this vow. Jephthah made that vow. Jephthah assumed that God was like the gods of all the other peoples that lived around Israel. And he assumed that that meant that God was a God who, in order for him to show up, in order for him to help, in order for him to be on Jephthah's side for this battle, he had to earn that help. He had to pay something for that. And so Jephthah made that vow to try and appease God in order to get him on his side, because he made the assumption that God was like the gods of all the other peoples. Well, the Israelites win the victory. Jephthah returns home victorious, and the first thing that comes out of the door of his house to meet him is his only child, his daughter. Jephthah cries out, his daughter cries out when she finds this out. But here is the thing: God did not ask Jephthah to make that vow. He did not require this vow from him, and nowhere in the text are we told that God was holding him to that vow, that he wanted him to keep and fulfill this vow. But Jephthah made an assumption about God, and he ended up fulfilling that vow. And that's why this is such a tragic story. Assumptions are going to cause us problems. They may cause us to miss out on something. They may cause a misunderstanding in our life. They can cause conflicts for us. And as we see in the case of Jephthah, assumptions can lead to tragedy and great personal pain. Here's the thing about what happens when we make assumptions. Our assumptions reveal more about what is in our heart than what is in that other person's heart or the reality of our situation. And so often our assumptions turn out to be unfounded, they turn out to be wrong, and what happens is we end up getting all worked up for nothing, and nothing good comes from them. One of the things I've been learning through this crazy season of life that we're in right now is to not make assumptions. This has been something I've learned in the past. It's something I want to really make a habit in my life, to not make assumptions. I want to do my best to get the facts. I'm working to make sure that I'm thinking the best about other people and what they're doing instead of assuming the worst. And remember that things may not be as they appear, and I've been working to practice what the Bible tells us in Proverbs 18:13. That verse says, "To answer before listening, that is folly and shame." I haven't figured all this out. I've not arrived. I don't get this right all the time by any means. But one of the ways that we can love our neighbor as ourselves is by staying away from making assumptions about them. Church, let's let our light shine so that people see Jesus through us. And if we practice Proverbs 18:13 to listen before we give an answer, if we don't make assumptions, if we assume the best, that is a great way for us to let our light shine. I hope you have a great week. And we will be online Sunday at 9 a.m. live streaming our service, and we will have in-person services at 9 and 10:30. And I hope you can join us.